This video contains subject matter that may be offensive and disturbing to some people. If you are the type to require a warning throughout a video or show, let this message serve as your warning. This channel discusses the harsh reality of true crime. If this warning is not sufficient for you, consider a different genre and unsubscribe from my channel immediately. Man, what a horrible night. My Blazers lost the same way the election's going. I mean, we were up 20 points, and then they just slowly lost the lead and then lost right at the end. I mean, just, oh, man, we suck. Yeah. Here's what I will say. It looks like both of the idiot senators running in, the Democrats running in Georgia are going to win. But what I'll say is, anybody who voted for Warnock, like, at all, you are an absolute shame to humanity. You know, whether Kelly Loeffler sucked as a candidate, but Warnock is a monster, okay? And he was voted in because, like I always say, whatever it takes. It doesn't matter what kind of person he is. He is one of the worst people that has ever, I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever seen some of the sermons he's done. He is a monster. And if you voted for him just for your party, you're an idiot. Okay? And it is what it is. But wow, unbelievable. I mean, God. Did you not, those of you in Georgia, did you not pay attention to the things he was saying? I remember Map Lear. I don't see Map Lear. I can't see anybody named Map Lear. Where's Map Lear? He's one of those people that's hidden on my channel. For some reason, they can comment, but I can't see them. Yeah, I don't see him at all. Oh, now okay, now I can see it. That was weird. Like for a second, I just couldn't see it. But my God, everybody, have you guys looked into the Warnock guy? He's like one of those radical pastors, you know, that like Reverend Jeremiah Wright, same type. And now he's a senator. You give me a break. Oh, disgusting. So anyways, yeah, the Blazers lost. Looks like both, I kind of had a feeling this was going to happen, to be honest with you. More enthusiasm for going radical than there was to, you know, the enthusiasm, if there was any, was going to be for the president. Yeah. All right, well, this is round 2 now. Yeah, well, I don't, you know, you might have heard him on the radio, but even his wife said he's a total fake. And go listen to what he said. It's scary shit. You know, he's anti-police. He's literally absolutely the opposite of what you'd think somebody being a senator would be. And there he goes. But, you know, the thing is Loeffler was terrible, too. You know, she profited off of the pandemic. You know, she knew it was coming, so she had her guy sell all the stocks. And, you know, so she's not great either. But at least she's got, like, normal You know, she's in a range of normalcy in society. You know. Thanks, Jessica Schubach. Well, yeah, I don't think anything's going to happen. I mean, tomorrow people are going to Washington, and you know, the election's just. I wish there was some kind of route, a chance, but there just isn't. I mean, who knows? Let's see what happens tomorrow. But I just feel like it's like 1 in a trillion. You know, something would happen. Okay. Well, anyways, I'm done with that. You know, I was looking at those cold cases in Ohio, and I found this one that looked like it was similar to another one. I mean, very similar. But this one was solved, but it's still listed on that site because I guess they just hadn't updated it. So maybe I'll start with that. I think I'll do Deltondo at the end. All right. Yeah, and if you're just coming onto the show right now, if you're in the lower tier on my channel membership, the one that's $1.99, I'm going to be getting rid of that. If you want to maintain your status, you know, like what level you're at. I mean, I'm going to probably make new emojis anyways, but I'm going to get rid of it, and then I'm going to add 2 higher ones. So it's going to be 5, 10, and then, you know, some other ones for other people. I might even, you know, do like working sessions with them. Maybe even do like they can come on and we're just hanging out on Zoom, you know, working through a case, something like that. And the reason I'm doing it is because I realize that because that tier is there, everybody picks that one right away. You know, it's just ding, 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 and it just, you know, we've got goals now to try to fund some of these DNA research and whatnot, and you know, super chats is the main source of income, and then that's a bigger chunk on there, and then ad revenues like so far dead last that it's not even close. So there you go. That's going to happen in February. So if you want to keep your, I'm going to change the emojis probably. I think I think you almost have to be there 2 years to get the 6.0. I believe. I don't know. So that's what it's going to be. Hey, thanks, Claudia Neubauer. Oh yeah. Well, shit. It's 1 o'clock over there, right? Yeah. All right. So what we'll have is a $4.99, $9.99, maybe a $19.99, and a 30. You know, something like $29. That one you'll get like a hoodie. I mean, I gotta still work through it, but you know, I'm sure not everybody's gonna do the higher ones. But.
Can't stay, it's late here. Heart.
Yeah. Yeah, I think $5 a month is like having 1 cup of coffee in a month for 3 hours of show a night. Probably, I think people could probably figure out a way to make that work. It's going to start in February. So, all right. Let me get this. I'm just going to go through these other cases that I had listed. There was one from last night that I just started, so I'll start with that one first. All right, thank you. Daylight donut. Hey, I'll be good. It'll be good for you then, Charlie Ann. It's not good to eat those donuts, right? Yeah. That's pretty funny. All right, so this case is about Susan Denoma. We started talking about her last night, and then it was getting already into the 3-hour mark. Okay. I'm just going to start down here. She's 25 years old. She was stabbed in her apartment. Homicide detectives spent almost 7 hours at her home at 5490 Beachmont Avenue. That is... I'll try to work on more emotions, by the way. I was thinking about... I'm just kidding. So this is her address right here. I think she lived in these apartments. Right there. And Susan Denoma was a sports-loving, outgoing person and kept in touch with her Anderson High School friends who remember as senior class treasurer. They, like police, say they have no idea who would have stabbed the office worker to death in her home. Cincinnati police said Friday that they have no suspects in the slaying of the 25-year-old Mount Washington woman. Miss Denoma's mother, Marjorie, found her daughter's body in bed after worried coworkers had called at Denoma's Mount Carmel home. So they called her and said, hey, your daughter didn't show up for work. And then her mother went over to her apartment and found her murdered on the bed. I mean, what a nightmare. Homicide detectives spent almost 7 hours at her 5490 Beachmont Avenue apartment Thursday afternoon, but said little about what they found. Police went to Miss Denoma's small, quiet apartment complex shortly after noon. Homicide Sergeant Paul Morgan refused to say whether Miss Denoma's apartment was ransacked, but he said officers found little sign of struggle. He said there was no sign of forced entry. So, somebody... she either let somebody in or left her door unlocked. Her mother had to have a caretaker let her in, he said. The place was locked up. The neighbors' accounts, Miss Denoma was a friendly, quiet person, one of the few singles in the apartment complex. She lived there for some time after she was divorced in 1980. So this is 1982 in May. Let's see. Lieutenant Donald Beard, homicide commander, said her former husband voluntarily talked to police as soon as he heard about her death. He was very helpful and volunteered information, Beard said. There is no reason at this point to consider him a suspect. The couple had been married for a little over 2 years. After the divorce, she legally changed her name back to Miss Denoma. When she was married, Miss Denoma listed her occupation as social worker on her marriage license. She and her husband lived for a time in Walnut Hills. But a little more than 3 years ago, she took an office job with Cincinnati Millicron, working at the Giant Toolmakers foundry. She had contacts there. Her father, Donald J., who has worked for the company more than 30 years, he is a maintenance foreman at the foundry. Miss Denoma kept up active social life following her divorce. She played in local volleyball and softball leagues, and almost weekly would play racquetball with friends at a local fitness center. After a game or dates, she would often stop at the East End Cafe at 4003 Eastern Avenue. She was neat, one worker there said. A fine person. I can't believe it happened. Beard said his investigators know that friends often left notes on the woman's door, but they have not found any notes that might have been left Wednesday night, the night they believe Miss Denoma was murdered, perhaps after a date. Well, how would they know about a date? Miss Denoma is survived by her parents. Okay, that part's just... So that place that she would go to, you can see there's her... where she lived, and then she'd go here, to hang out and have a couple drinks, coffee or whatnot. All right. So investigators stymied in 2 murder cases. Susan Denoma, 25, was found dead in her Mount Washington apartment, 5490 Beachmont Avenue. On May 20th, she had been stabbed. Her body was found by her mother after the woman had not shown up at her office job. The other case is that of Charles Courtney, 55. Obviously, they're not really related, but let's see. We have not cleared anybody, Beard said, including Denoma's former husband, who has voluntarily cooperated with the investigation. The day after Denoma's body was found, Beard said there was no reason to consider him a suspect. I think this is the other guy here. A case similar to Denoma's killing, the September 28, 1980 murder of Rebecca Lynn Reed, 25, of Madisonville, took almost 2 years to solve, Beard said. Okay, so they're still, right away, that was actually in June. There wasn't a lot of articles right away. And then in July, and then they finally came back with more information. The May murder of a young Mount Washington woman found stabbed in her bed had been ruled a strangulation by the Hamilton County coroner. Dr. Frank Cleveland ruled Thursday that Susan Denoma, 25, died in the bed of her 5490 Beachmont Avenue apartment because of a ligature of some sort was pulled tightly around her neck to strangle her. I thought they said in that first article she was stabbed to death. On the woman's death certificate, the coroner listed her death as ligature strangulation, resulting in homicide. Cincinnati homicide investigators have previously said Denoma was stabbed, there you go, 1 or 2 times, but they have refused to say what they believe to be the primary cause of her death. So here we go. This is one of those ones that's personal, right? Strangled to death and stabbed. Sergeant Thomas Oberschmidt of the homicide squad said Thursday that investigators had some indication that Denoma was strangled, but they did not know what was tied around her neck. He said investigators in the case were working on a list of suspects, but refused to say how many suspects. Since the investigation first began, Cincinnati police have said they believe the Denoma death has sexual overtones. Lieutenant Donald Beard, homicide commander, said earlier that Denoma's killer may have been someone whose sexual overtures were spurned. Right, like a scorned. Somebody wanted to be with her, but she wouldn't, and then he broke in and took what he couldn't have willingly. But Thursday, Oberschmidt refused to comment on those details, saying only that the investigation into the woman's death is progressing. The Denoma case is one of several unsolved. Okay, and then we go move to November. Mother awaits justice for murder. This is a pretty long one. Let's see what this says down here. Cincinnati homicide investigators do say the friend or acquaintance argued with the petite athlete woman and struggled with her in the living room. Oh, weird. Let's see. Her friends still call us up, Mrs. Denoma said last week. There are a few of her friends I would like to talk to, but I don't. I don't know whether they're the one. 25-year-old Susan Denoma was strangled to death in her bed sometime during the night of May 19th. Hey, that's my mom's birthday. By a person she knew well enough to let into the front door. So that's what I was thinking. The person might have been waiting for her, might have left a note on her door that she picked up after a friendly night out with her supervisor from work. Police say they can't comment on those possibilities. Cincinnati homicide investigators do say the friend or acquaintance argued with the petite athlete woman and struggled with her in the living room. So there might have been people that heard something, and then there was things in the living room that were... Somehow the argument took Susan and her killer to the bedroom of her small apartment. There her assailant strangled her and then repeatedly stabbed her. The Hamilton County coroner ruled that Susan died when her killer pulled some sort of ligature tight around her bare neck, using a weapon found at the scene. The murderer stabbed her 3 times in the stomach and twice in sexual organs. Oh, Jesus. Man, this guy. Man, what a monster. So she was sexually mutilated, too. We've seen a few of those. They just don't go into details like this one. So twice in the stomach. That's interesting. I wonder if somebody, maybe, I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. You know, they didn't say she was pregnant or something, but it's interesting that she stabbed in the stomach, and it could have been that he missed the sexual organs and stabbed her in the stomach the first time, but I don't know. It's weird. That's a weird one. Among family and friends, the motive for this brutal killing is only guessed at. A lover who was frustrated or spurned by her, an angry friend. Well, could be a serial killer type too, right? That's kind of what they do. Was frustrated or spurned by her, an angry friend, a man denied a date with the blue-eyed, blonde-haired woman. I guess when I look at her, just because it's black and white, it looked like she had dark hair, but I guess she's blonde and has blue eyes. Popular, outgoing Susan Denoma, a sports-loving woman who played on several softball and volleyball teams. The apparent sexual overtones of Susan's death have bothered her mother greatly. I wonder if they ever looked into that manager she worked for. They were just out together, and maybe it didn't end well. Cincinnati homicide investigators Diane Arnold and John Burke, like Miss Denoma, have not put... And the thing is once he tried, he knew, he could get in trouble. With his work. The pair have spent thousands of hours and interviewed more than 50 people in their search for Denoma's killer. Those hours and the interviews have produced a motive and a prime suspect, but the investigators said the two are so close tied that they can't discuss the motive without revealing the suspect. Wow, let's see. Well, that kind of makes sense. But the investigators said the two are so closely tied. So they're talking about her, well, the supervisor, right? But they can't discuss the motive without revealing the suspect. Or the ex, I don't know. That can't be done, they said, until a person is arrested. Well, it's 39 years later. Why don't you give the grand jury a call? The list of suspects is now narrowed to one Cincinnati area man whom Burke and Arnold keep tabs on, though they cautiously note that they continue to talk to more people and track down more leads each day. Arnold and Burke, both veteran homicide investigators, worked with several of their colleagues at first, amassing evidence that pointed to the cause of Susan Denoma's death. They kept the Denoma apartment locked until police protection preserved as they found it. Oh, wow, that's pretty good. They returned to it several times as though paging through a reference book to refresh their memory of facts. We just wanted to make sure we didn't overlook anything at the scene. As the months progressed, Arnold and Burke tracked hundreds of leads and pointedly questioned dozens of friends, co-workers, and family members. Each day of the investigation, naturally, you're progressing, Arnold said, no matter what you've done. Let's see. In the confusing sketch of months since Susan died, neighbors and friends have lessened the pain, she said. You don't know how much friendship means until you need it. Man, I'd sure like to know who that person was. Man. Okay, so then, we're moving forward in time here. This is 1983, a year later. And it's interesting because her face comes up on this one. An open case of, and then when you look at this, it's interesting because we've covered the Bricka murders. Tammy King, we mentioned 2 days ago. And then here's Susan Denoma. Martin Dumler, I think I talked about him. Tammy Kane, we talked about yesterday. And maybe not, we don't think we did Leslie Sparrow here. But every single person on that. I can't remember what Martin Dumler was, but that name is definitely familiar to me. So that was in a 1983 article. Basically they're just saying that they haven't solved cases. Then we move forward 11 years. And this is part of an article, has her in it. Investigators have brought every tool they have to bear on the case of Susan Denoma. The 25-year-old woman was found by her mother, Marjorie, stabbed and strangled in her Mount Washington apartment. Rumors, reports, mysterious billboard messages, and more have been part of the case. Investigators recently, I'd like to know what some of those were, worked for 9 months from late 1993 to this summer following a tip about a suspect, only to have a genetic testing rule out as the killer. Well, hey, they have his DNA then, obviously, right? I mean, so that's what I remember reading this and going, well, what are you guys doing now? Shit, you got the DNA. You just said in 1993, genetic testing ruled him out. So hopefully you still have something. Every detective interviewed mentioned the Denoma case as one that keeps pulling them back. It's always in the back of your mind and it never goes away. Huh? What do you mean say it like, oh, what are you talking about? Man. Alright, then we got the next year, about a year later, suspect in 13-year-old slaying is dead. So now this is kind of weird, right? This is the one that they never would mention, but listen to this crap right here. The Florida suicide of a prime suspect in a 13-year-old Mount Washington slaying may keep Cincinnati police from ever solving the case. Michael Holder, 42, was found dead of carbon monoxide poisoning in his home near Orlando on August 13th. The dismembered remains of his wife were found in the septic tank and ice chest and wrapped in paper and plastic in the refrigerator. Oh, Jesus. Holder has for years been the leading suspect. So this is probably the guy that they thought was the person. Now, I don't know what the relationship is because I haven't read this yet, but let's see. Holder has for years been the leading suspect in the May 1982 killing of Susan Denoma. The 25-year-old Cincinnati Millicran worker was found strangled in her Mount Washington apartment, and the killer had stabbed her repeatedly after death. Yeah, I know this is a second show, everybody, but we're still accepting and doing the super chats because I've got to keep everybody going to get the numbers to be able to do what we do. Okay, the what do you call it? I mean, I just heard back from Colleen yesterday, and she's already talked to the police regarding that 1961 case. And they're asking them if they have a charity, not a charity, like a non-profit that we could submit to, that they could then in turn sort of, the go-between, basically. So, and I heard back from that, and then she gave me an idea for a guest that seemed pretty interesting. All right. Police Thursday, following their usual policy, refused to identify any suspects in Denoma's death. However, Lieutenant Greg Snyder of the Homicide Unit confirmed that the case was reactivated after Orange County, Florida investigators called Cincinnati to discuss the contents of Holder's suicide note. Oh man, wonder what that's. Hey, thank you, Carolina T. She's the one that painted the in this picture right here, See that in the wall behind me there? She painted that blue and Chloe right there. You might have to do a different one because Chloe looks a little different now.
Thanks, Gray.
But it is what she looked like. Hey, thank you, Gene Fish, Susanna, Mac Gilla, Podrick, and Carolina T. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, she made that painting. And then Dana Dane did this one over here on Halloween back there. So if you want to send in a painting of some sort, I'll put it on the wall too. Hey, thanks, Nona617. There we go. I'm going to have her come on and talk to us about the solving of...
Here's a bit from my son's tooth money.
Yeah, tooth money. Come on, you don't want to trick the kid into tooth fairy. Oh, hey, thanks, Michelina. Yeah, I do. That's kind of what, either people hate me or they like me because I just say what I think instead of trying to be politically correct. I mean, there are some things you got to be politically correct about, because of the cancel culture out there, which sucks because then everybody's freedom is being slowly wiped away. Thank you, Nona617, Susanna, Mac, Gilla, Podrick, Gene Fish, and Carolina T. Hey, okay, what was it? She said, I'll get back to this in a minute. This is getting pretty interesting right here. She said, buckskin. Remember Buckskin Doe? The one that was solved. It's an Ohio case. And then when I was looking at it, I realized it was solved, but I still discussed it. She'll come on and talk about that one. I think that one would be really interesting. It's pretty crazy. She just wrote a little bit, but probably have her come on pretty soon again. It was so fun last time. Okay, so here we go. The case was reactivated after Orange County, Florida. Investigators called Cincinnati to discuss the contents of Holder's suicide note. The note didn't use Denoma's name, but Holder wrote that he had been blamed for his Cincinnati killing, said Commander Steve Jones of the Orange County Sheriff's Office. He said in the note that he really loved her. Oh, interesting. But after examining the note and interviewing witnesses in the Denoma case, police had no choice but to keep the case open, Snyder said. We need more evidence than we have now. We just don't... But see, here's the thing. If that guy was the person that they narrowed it down to back in 1982, and then later on he chops his wife up, puts her in a refrigerator, and then, how could, my God, he's like the perfect person to have been the killer, right? He shows that he's a psycho. The Denoma case has haunted police since May 20th, 1980. Investigators put in thousands of hours in the months following the death. The case was periodically reactivated as technical advances in evidence analysis gave new hope. Well, they have his genes. Look at genetic tests available in the late 1980s eliminated a new suspect last year, but never pointed to anyone in the kill. So that means they have his DNA. It's time for them to do genealogy and close this case for good, right? I mean, man, if I was the detectives on this, I would be running so fast to do that. Diane Arnold and I work on this case for 6 months straight, and I had kind of hoped to close it before I retired, said Sergeant John Burke. It was Holder's feelings for Denoma that first pointed to him as a suspect. I think he had made some advances and she wasn't interested, said Hugh Berger, who commanded the homicide unit during part of the Denoma. So I guarantee it, that's who they're referring to in that 1982 article. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Melissa. Melissa Crone Carville. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. It was Holder's feelings for Denoma that first pointed, man. And then this is an article. This is the same article right here. It just happens to be online too. So that was it for that story. But man, isn't that one crazy? I think they absolutely need to. I might even go.
Holder's wife just can't be his first kill.
I might call him and just go, hey, listen, I'm sure you're aware of it, but apparently you guys had DNA in the Denoma case. Have you guys thought of using genetic genealogy on that one? Because it sounds like you've got a perfect DNA sample. And there was a battle going on. She probably fought for her life. She was an athlete. They said that there was a fighting going on in the living room that moved off into the bedroom, where she was then stabbed and strangled. They definitely. I'm sure he got cut somehow, or she has his skin underneath her fingernails. Dig the chopper up? What does that mean? Oh, you mean I'm sure they can get DNA with a relative or something like that. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if they took a sample from him after he died. It'd be kind of interesting to look him up a little bit, see what was going on there. What was the association? Just a coworker? Wouldn't it be interesting if he was the supervisor, though? What are you talking about, Micheline? What do you mean you have 3 years of notes? What are you referring to? I'm just doing my show. Yeah, just send in the, if you got a story or something, just send it over. I don't want, the thing is, I don't like just to do a show and then tell somebody's story. I like to do my own stuff. Yeah. Okay, well, don't worry about it. I think we got enough of the information. That basically unless you got a hold of them and got the, actual notes that were left and that kind of thing. Yeah. Sounds like they have a good DNA sample, though, so it's a little bit weird that they haven't done that yet. We're now in 2021, and they've been doing this for 3 years. Okay, well, you keep on doing that, Miss Shalina. I got to keep moving on to other cases. Good luck, all right? Yeah, I try to research as much as I can just before the show, but good luck with you. All right, so now this is the next one here. Judy Ann Ott here. Woman found dead in Clark County home. All right, a 33-year-old Clark County woman was found dead Tuesday night at her rural home. I think this is... There's no pictures of her as well. Right, I know people talk about stuff all the time. Yeah. But can you not... I don't want to keep talking about it, Miss Shalina. I've already explained it to you. Okay, so we're moving on to the next topic now. All right? I think right now it looks like a pretty simple, like, oh, wow. Somebody went in there, killed her, and it seems like they were onto the right guy. He killed himself. They have DNA. All they need now is for them to do DNA testing. Now, if it leads to another person, that would be pretty interesting. That's it. Okay? All the other stuff now is not relevant. Because now they have genealogy research available. Okay, a 33-year-old Clark County woman was found dead Tuesday night at her rural home 10 miles east of Springfield, apparently the victim of a homicide. According to the Clark County Sheriff's Office, sheriff deputies were dispatched at 7:50 p.m. and this is in Dayton here. So let's see, 8624 East National Road. Yeah, right there. Huh, that's weird. Look how close that one is. Right there. I mean, that's just right there in the same rural area here. Hmm. Now I want to see whose this one is. That one is Linda Dirth, 1973. But don't you think that's weird? I mean, you know, just like if you live somewhere in a rural area like that, and you have 2 murders just that close, it's just weird. Maybe it looks like that everywhere, we just don't know. Okay. They were dispatched there where they found the body of Judy A. Ott in the living room. The body was taken to Mercy Medical Center in Springfield where an autopsy was to be performed. This is 1983, April 5th. The Sheriff's Office, the County Coroner's Office, and the Springfield-based Regional Crime Laboratory were investigating. No suspects were in custody as of this morning, and no details were available. All right, then the next day, an autopsy Wednesday of a 33-year-old Clark County woman found dead Tuesday at her home 10 miles east of Springfield revealed she had been stabbed with a knife several times in the upper torso, said Lieutenant John Posey of the Springfield Police. The stabbing apparently occurred between 5:30 and 7:30. The body of Judy A. Ott was found in the living room. Oh, you gotta go? Charlene? What do you mean? It's really a good stopping point? Oh, sorry about that. Jeez. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on over there. Alright, well, thanks, Charlie. Sorry about that. That's shitty. Alright. And then another article that day, I think it's basically the same thing. Well, it has a little bit more information. The autopsy revealed the woman had been stabbed with a knife several times. He said Ott was married and had no children. Her husband apparently was not home at the time of her death. And then a month later, she's just mentioned in this one. And this is just slang sore in typical Springfield, you know. I mean, you can just tell. Look at all the stories that are out there. At a time when serious crime is declining nationally, the homicide rate in America's typical city of Springfield is soaring. In 1982, there were 6 slayings in the city, but in the first 4 months of 1983, 8 people have been killed. 4 of the victims were found April 1st. Thomas G. DeWitt, a theater student. All of this is a city that Newsweek magazine selected as typical American. But there is little typical in the rising homicide rate. No arrests have been made in the slaying of Judy Ott of South Vienna, Ohio, in rural Clark County. She was killed just 1 week after DeWitt's arrest. Let's see. Who was DeWitt? Barry cannot explain the sudden increase in killing. There is a bright side. Barry feels it lies in the fact that the police and sheriff deputies have made arrests in all but one of the slayings since January 1st. Maybe DeWitt, was he one of the killer? I don't see it just quickly in my eye over there. Although the homicide rate within Springfield city limits are up sharply, the rate in rural Clark County has not increased. And believe it or not, everybody, that was it. So that's one of those unsolved ones where somebody's just hanging out at their house. Somebody goes in there, stabs them to death, disappears into oblivion, and we never get to have an answer, apparently. Oh, there it is. 4 of the victims were found April 1st. Thomas G. DeWitt, a theater student at Ohio State University, was arrested and charged with killing his father, grandmother, and 2 neighbors. Okay. So that's it on that one, unfortunately. I just thought doing a quick, I used 3 different news services. It's incredible how some cases have 0. All right, next one is Carol Ann Zastadil. And there's just one article. That's it. A Stark County woman was found dead in her home shortly after noon Wednesday, apparently the victim of robbery homicide. This is December 21st, 1983. The slaying followed an incident 2 months ago when Carol Zastadil awoke in the middle of the night and went for a drink of water. The 36-year-old woman was convinced that she saw someone in the family's home on Graydon Avenue, southwest in Perry Township. She woke her husband, Richard, who fumbled in the darkness to get and load a pistol. By the time he did that, the intruder had vanished. The Zastadils told neighbors that nothing appeared to be missing, so they did not file a police report. But they were careful to make sure that the doors of their ranch-style home always were locked. Well, hey, Michelle, if you have some really crazy inside information on that last one, you can send me an email about it, okay? All right, I'm just trying to cover cases that nobody's ever going to talk about, and like this one right here, I doubt will ever be discussed again, mainly because there's no information. You'd have to write a letter to, get some freedom of information, and, Huh? You talking to me? Who's crabby? What are you talking about? Oh, Gene Fish. Oh, look at that. It even has a gene and a fish. No, they weren't talking about you, Michelina. But would you mind if I'm going to continue on with this. I'm sure everybody loves to hear about all the stuff you're interested in and everything. But when we're doing these cases, I like people to kind of focus in on what we're talking about, right? So that's why I'm saying if you have something you want to send me an email on, just send it. The Zastadils told neighbors that nothing appeared to be missing, so they did not file a police report, but they were careful to make sure that the doors of their ranch-style home always were locked. That's after that incident. Miss Zastadil was found about 12:15 p.m. Wednesday with her throat slashed in what Perry Police Chief Addison Woods called a robbery homicide. Zastadil found his wife's body in his stepdaughter's bedroom. Isn't it weird how it's like, you know, I don't know. Everything always ends up back in a bedroom somewhere. I guess it's not really that weird. You know. He told neighbors that between $500 and $800 had been taken. The contents of his wife's purse were scattered about, as were the contents of several drawers, although the house was not ransacked. Yeah, it's almost like somebody knew she had that money. No one saw or heard anything, said neighbor Bruce. Prince, everyone around here is more than a little shaken by all this and more than a little paranoid. I was home all morning until 10 and I didn't see or hear anything. Another neighbor who lived behind the Zastadil's house was up and looked into their family room at 8 and he didn't see or hear anything. Zastadil and the children were pretty shaken up by the and devastated, blaming themselves because the garage door was left open Wednesday morning. Zastadil left for work about 7:15 a.m. His two stepchildren, his wife's children from a previous marriage, boarded a school bus at 8:15. Zastadil was called at work to pick up his stepson and had become ill at school. When Zastadil got home, he found the body of his wife, who reportedly worked for an area psychologist. Man, that's some crazy crap right there, right? So the garage door was open. It's almost like that person just kept, knew something. Like that's $500, $800 is kind of a pretty big score of cash just sitting around in a house. Almost like you knew about it. They didn't ransack everything else. Weird. Okay, now I'm moving on to another one. Charla Spangler. Now this is one. Hey, Michelina, would you just quit talking? Everybody knows you're just amazing. You've got so many cases. You're one of the best ever. Okay. I mean, it's just look at this. Let's see. Even now, that's a lot of cash. Yeah, like $800. That's kind of a lot of money. Yeah, I mean, I think most people, in 81, maybe having cash sitting around wasn't that different. Nowadays, people don't normally have cash sitting around that much. Normally, I'm saying. Okay, all right, Michelina. All right, so here we go. This one's kind of weird. I think when I was reading it, I really thought of another case that we just talked about, and I'm wondering if you guys might think the same thing. All right. So this case is the Charla Spangler, which actually, when I started looking at, there was 0 newspaper articles about it back when it happened. But it turns out it was solved in 2017. And fingerprints lead to arrest in 1985 slaying of Ohio woman. Authorities said fingerprints obtained in 2015 have led to the arrest and indictment of a man in the fatal shooting of a Central Ohio woman in the mid-1980s. The Columbus Dispatch reported that the Franklin County Prosecutor's Office in Columbus announced Monday that 63-year-old Douglas Krumloff has been charged with aggravated murder in the slaying of 24-year-old Charla Spangler. Spangler was last seen leaving a lounge in the Columbus suburb of Gahanna in January 1985. Oh, here we go. We're going to get 3 of these in a row now. Watch. Are you talking to me, Michelina? What do you mean we're watching your channel? I don't even know what you're talking about. See, look at how we get these. We always get like this batch of subs. See, this is like one, two. Is there another one? Yep, there we go. There we go. Are these even real? I mean, they just look... Like, why would Noob Games subscribe here? Who are they? Yes, the Michael Jackson dance is for new subs. Yeah. Okay. Had enough of that shit. Alright, so anyways, we've got a... you could just tell that person wasn't going to fit in. Yep, my crystal ball is working. Yeah, I did too right at the beginning. Totally bogus person. Alright, so let's go through this one again like I was trying to explain. So listen, the Columbus Dispatch reported that the Franklin County Prosecutor's Office in Columbus announced Monday that 63-year-old Douglas Krumloff has been charged with aggravated murder in the slaying of 24-year-old Charlotte Spangler. Prosecutors said Spangler was last seen leaving a lounge in the Columbus suburb of Gahanna in January 1985. Employees notified authorities when they noticed her empty car with the engine running in the parking lot. Her body was found in a vacant gas station parking lot. Prosecutors said fingerprints from an unrelated arrest matched prints found in Spangler's death, and that was back in 1982, actually. Court records don't indicate if Krumloff of Mount Vernon has an attorney. And this is another article from then. So, no, I guess it was 1980. No, it was 1985, not 82. The Charlotte Spangler. So I moved up into 1985. I know, they always think they're so clever. It's always the people that are too pushy right away, and you just immediately know that they're trolls. It's crazy, right? I mean, you could tell that I was already onto it, right? I've been doing this for so long now. It's just, they'll claim passive aggressively. No, I'm not. I was really just... Yeah. No, she didn't float under the wire. I kept watching. Yeah. All right, so here he goes. Man indicted in 1985 killing of a woman. 32 years after Charlotte Spangler walked out of the Gahanna Go-Go Bar where she worked and was found dead in a northeast side parking lot, a 63-year-old Knox County man has been charged with her murder. So it's 32. Let's see. So 32 years would make that person 31 at the time. Okay. Douglas E. Krumloff, Summer Lane near Mount Vernon, was indicted Friday by a Franklin County jury on the count of aggravated murder. Krumloff's fingerprints were collected after a domestic violence arrest in 2015 and entered into a computer database, which matched them with fingerprints collected at the scene. That's pretty amazing, right? After all those years, a 32-year-old fingerprint match. That's crazy. Now, check this one out. We just talked about this one the other night, right? Watch. It was this one. Rosemary Rosa Legger, a former fourth-grade teacher, remember, who took a temporary job as a waitress at a disco to help support her unemployed husband and son, was found shot to death yesterday. Again, shot to death. yesterday morning near the Southland Shopping Center in Middleburg Heights. Rosemary H. Legger, 29, of 11. And so that guy, he would have been, this is 1982, would have been 29 years old, been exactly her age. Was found in the back seat of her white four-door 1981 Toyota Corolla, shot once in the back of the head. Remember the one where we found it was on the back side of the shopping complex? This just sounds so similar to me. So this was a woman's night out. There were guy dancers. It was sort of similar. She gets off work. Let's get through this other part here. Where was that? She had started work at 8:30 p.m. Tuesday, ladies' night. Wilkins said the bar was featuring male dancers and was very crowded. So the other bar was a go-go bar, right? Wilkins said her body was found in a parking lot behind the disco. He did not know if she had driven from the spot and returned or if she had never left. The only difference is in the other case, her body was removed from the car. A Bojangles, and both shot in the head, though. A Bojangles employee told Legger's husband on the phone that she might have gone to breakfast with other employees. I can't remember what time it says she got off of work. Let's see. She left her job at Bojangles Disco, said Sergeant William. The car was parked behind the building. All right. Let's see. Shot in the head with a .38 caliber revolver. There it is. Look at the time, too. Bojangles Disco at 13409 Smith Road, some 5 hours after the night spot closed at 2:30. She was found by police in her car in the parking lot of the Bojangles Disco 5 hours after. So she was found at 2:30 a.m. She had worked at the club as a waitress for a month. I don't know if we have the exact time she got off of work. So, anyways, you go back to the other story. And look at this lady is shot in the head twice. Working at a go-go dance place, a bar. Or maybe she, I don't know, let's see, 32-year-old Charlotte Spangler walked out of the Gohanna Go-Go Bar where she worked and was found dead, So it could be a similar thing where the guy goes to the bar, waits for the lady to leave, and then assaults her at her car. Now, in this case, her car was found in a different location. So we've got the Spangler right here. So this is where she worked, somewhere around on this street right here. I'm just kind of guessing it was this place right here. It could have been any of these places. That's where she worked. And then she was found right over here. She was dumped. I guess there was a truck stop or something in this area. And her body was found right on this address location right there. I know, there's just something that felt really similar about it. And then what's interesting is I looked up the guy, and he lived here in 1969, the killer, so he must have been pretty young at that point. But actually he'd be 20. And then he also lived, see, where the hell is that? Yeah, so Douglas Krumloff, whatever his name, he lived right here in 1983. So if you look at that, and then look how close the dance place is on this street. So he lived right there in 1983. This is where the dance spot was. And then you can tell he probably, after he killed her, he went, oh shit. And he didn't want to leave the body anywhere near his place, so he drives it over here. Then he goes back to where he's from. So that way the body's not associated. I guess she worked here, and then her... Wait, where the hell was the car found? I think I had that too. Yeah, it sounded like her car... Well, hold on. Let me just go back to the article. I'm just trying to remember how this went. So this one here says a lot of the information. Douglas E. Krumloff of Summer Lane near Mount Vernon was indicted Friday by a Franklin County grand jury on 1 count of aggravated murder and 1 count of murder, both with guns specifications. Krumloff's fingerprints were collected after a domestic violence arrest. Bangler, 24, was a dancer at the Gold Fox Lounge on West Johnstown Road. She was last seen alive by her co-workers when she left work at about 2:30. And so that's a similar, late at night, just like Legger. When she left work at about 2:30 a.m. on January 30th, her body was discovered the next day dumped beneath a parked North American Van Lines trailer in the snow-covered parking lot of an abandoned gas station at Dublin, Granville, and Hamilton Roads. I wonder if that's still there. I bet you it was right there. What? It looks like there used to be something that you could drive into, and then that looks like that could have been, and that's exactly where the address is. Thanks, Gene Fish. What do you guys think? That's where the pin went with that address location. And I wonder if it was right there. See how it kind of pulls off? I wonder if you go back to 1995. Okay, 88. Ah, crap. What if I go high? Come on, leave that crappy map up. Okay. Her body was discovered the next day, dumped beneath parked North American Van Line trailers in the snow-covered parking lot of the abandoned gas station at Dublin, Granville, and Hamilton Roads. She had been shot in the head, the coroner's office reported. O'Brien said Krumloff fingerprints matched 2 found at the scene, 1 on the trailer, that's interesting, and 1 on the roll of duct tape near the body. Duct tape also was on Spangler's left wrist, he said. So that's a little different than the other one. Krumloff has known for months that he was under investigation in the case. He's going to enter not guilty pleas and defend the case. Krumloff has been taken into custody because he wasn't taken into custody because he's at the Ohio Health Riverside Methodist Hospital with an undisclosed illness. He was interviewed by Columbus police and told them he had never been to the parking lot. Well, you're a liar. So, all right, now this is 2018 here. That's the guy right there.
Suspected of a 1985 cold case murder, back in jail tonight. Now, he was on house arrest. We told you about that. Legal correspondent Seema Iyer is live in the newsroom now with the reason he's back behind bars. Seema, there may be more to his rearrest than investigators are letting on.
Well, that's right, Stage. So, 1985.
Well, of course it's bullshit, Gene. His fingerprints were there.
Spangler is murdered, but not till April of 2017 does Krumloff get arrested. His trial is set to start 2 days ago, and then boom, during jury selection, it's revealed that certain items were not tested for male DNA, okay? So the defense argues,
look at that.
release my client,
Oh, wow.
and then the client gets released.
Holy shit.
Krumlov, defense argues, release my client, and then the client
That's
gets
crazy.
released.
Look at that
Krumlov, that's today. His trial is set to start 2 days ago, and then boom, during jury selection, it's revealed that certain items were not tested for male DNA, okay? So the defense argues, release my client, and then the client gets released. Krumlov is on house arrest. Now, yesterday we spoke to Ron O'Brien, who said that the results of the new DNA testing was expected in 24 hours. That's today. They go back to court. Now, the reason that Krumlov is back behind bars, according to his bond sheet, is that failure to comply with bond conditions because he was staying with his son. There were firearms in the house, but here is the surprise. Also said on the record today that just the receipt of the test results equals a lead to his bond sheet is that failure to comply with bond conditions because he was staying with his son. There were firearms in the house, but here is the surprise. Also said on the record today that just the receipt of the test results equals a legal change in circumstances. And that is what we're waiting to find out. We don't know what the DNA results are, but we should find out pretty soon. Live in the newsroom, Seema Iyer, ABC 6 News.
All right, Seema, thank you.
I just couldn't organize my thoughts. And
okay. And now this next one is the best one. Article here. Right here. There he is. The monster. For more than 3 decades, Douglas Krumlov got away with killing someone. He may have killed that other girl. I think he very well may have killed Legger up here. It's so similar to me. And it's within 80 miles too. Not that far away. He does give a total bullshit story in this account here. Yeah, you're going to get angry though at what you're about ready to hear here. For more than 3 decades, Douglas Krumlov got away with killing someone when he pleaded guilty Wednesday, not to murder but to a lesser charge of involuntary manslaughter in a deal that included a sentence of 8 years in prison. He couldn't bring himself to apologize or offer an explanation. He left that to his defense attorney, Sam Szymanski, who made good on a promise in a plea agreement by explaining how Krumlov fatally shot 24-year-old Charla Spangler after meeting her at a Gohana Go-Go bar on January 30th, 1985. The victim's sister, Carla Hamilton, agreed to support the deal. He only got 8 years in prison, in exchange for an explanation of why her sister was shot twice. Now, you think you're going to get an honest answer? Why her sister was shot twice in her head and her body dumped in a Northeast Side parking lot all those years ago. Hamilton, who was 22 when her sister was killed, wept as she addressed the court before sentencing. It's not fair that you got to live your life and you robbed me of my sister for the last 34 years, she told Krumlov as she was looking at it. But I'm glad that you lived so I can see you be punished, and I hope you get what you deserve. Well, he didn't, because he's only got 8 years. Spangler disappeared at the end of her shift. Well, maybe somebody in prison will do something. Spangler disappeared at the end of her shift as a dancer. See, this is the same as the other story, right? Your end of your shift, you're getting off work, you're working at a bar where there's sexual stuff going on. Gold Fox Lounge on West Johnstown Road. Szymanski said that Krumlov met her there that night, and the two agreed to leave together. See, I don't even believe that at all. I think this monster at no point in his life looked good enough where he'd be leaving with the go-go dancer. Okay, So I don't believe that part at all. All right, so unfortunately, as they drove off, okay, here's, listen to this idiotic. Unfortunately, as they drove off, an argument ensued. And what do you think that might have been about? If there even was one. Szymanski said, directing his comments to Hamilton. So he's looking at the sister now. Krumlov's wallet was grabbed as she was getting out of the car. So what does that mean? Like she tried to steal? Are you trying to insinuate that she tried to steal his wallet too? So now you're blaming the victim? And she was getting out of the car. And through absolutely no fault of her own. Oh, but you just suggested she tried to steal the wallet. And with no justification, and with no reason under the sun, Mr. Krumlov took your sister's life. So that's what his attorney's reading back. What a ridiculous... if I was a judge, right after I heard that, I'd say, yeah, I'm sorry. We're going to make it 10 years because that was bogus. Her body was discovered the next day beneath a parked North American Van Lines trailer in the snow-covered parking lot of an abandoned gas station. The explanation in court left unanswered number of questions regarding the evidence in the case, including that Spangler's car was found with the engine running in the bar's parking lot. See? God. That's the same story, right? The other case, the girl got in her car and I think she was right. Well, she hadn't started her car yet in that one. I think that she was about to get in the car, forced into the back seat, and then the person sexually assaulted her and shot her in the back of the head, and then drove her car back around. Well, I don't even think he drove the car around. I think he killed her, and then he left. In this case, it's very similar to me, though. I mean, it's just very similar MO, you know, shot in the head, late at night, a woman getting off of work in a bar that a guy could be sitting in there, observing you leave work, and then he makes his move because it's late at night, nobody's around, and both of them end up being killed. And it was probably in this, I don't know. The other lady probably, this lady here probably fought the guy off, you know, and he just killed her instead of, I mean, she wasn't going to let him do anything. Charlotte Spangler probably kept fighting and he just shot her, dumped her body. Maybe he tried something. I mean, he drove her all the way over and then put her underneath that trailer. Weird. Krumlov, 65, who went on to become a successful businessman in Mount Vernon in Knox County, declined to make a statement. Both sides came to the plea deal with a realization, Szymanski said, that crimes that happened 35 years ago become increasingly difficult to prove. I think they had this one nailed. Yeah. They didn't need to cut a deal. But anyway, she was still listed on this site. They probably just never updated it. But this is what I have to work with, right? Listen to this. This is what this website said. 24 years old, Charlotte Spangler's death undetermined. What do you mean undetermined? It's an unsolved homicide. What do you mean undetermined? No, you guys know what happened. She was shot. And that's it. So I looked her up, didn't find anything, and then I expanded it to any time, and then these late articles came in 2017, 18, 19. All right, well, that's it. So now I'm going to do the Rachael Deltondo article. Hold on. What do you guys think? Do you think there's a chance those are related? It just, they're too similar to ignore, in my opinion. Yeah. After 1:30 in the morning, at a bar where it's sort of sexual tensions or a little bit, go-go dancing, and then the other one was women's night with male dancers. He's out there, he's scoping somebody out, somebody that works there, knowing they'll get off late. He doesn't care about the people that went there on dates. He's there caring about the workers, because he knows that they're going to get off work after everybody else is gone, and when they leave, they're going to be alone in that parking lot. Yeah, had a little sort of a, so it's hard to say, black and white's hard to determine. Like, I thought that case earlier was a brunette, but she had blonde hair and blue eyes. Alright, I'm going to take my face off the screen now so I can just do whatever I want. Pick my nose, that kind of stuff. Not really. Okay. All right, this is the one I found. It was from June last year, but I don't remember doing an update at this time, and it's kind of long, so let's see what it says. This is the Post Gazette. I put the link in the description. So if you don't know the Rachael Deltondo case, you might want to go watch some of my older videos. Let me open up hold on a second. Alright. Hey, we're going to pull out the old flow chart. I don't remember which one. That looks like the most recent one. You guys remember this sucker? Look at that thing. There's even a page 2. Yeah. So we'll pull that one back in a little bit. After an elementary school teacher was gunned down in her Aliquippa driveway on Mother's Day 2018, police had no trouble finding people to question. One was victim Rachael Deltondo's ex-fiancé, Frank Catropa, a successful local businessman. The couple's relationship had ended poorly, and the reason it ended poorly, this is Frank Catropa right here, this is Sheldon Jeter Jr. right there, and it ended poorly because Rachael was found in a car with Sheldon right here when he's 17 and she was, I think, 30, maybe 29 or so at the time. I can't remember exactly how old she was at that time, but she was even at a school, she taught at a school where he was a young student at, even way before that. And, this guy's like this big-time businessman, and they ended up getting a divorce, so he seemed like a pretty good suspect. This isn't so crazy if you just kind of think in your head of all the stuff that's going on in this one. Let me just see if by looking at this I could do a quick breakdown. Yeah. So on the night she was murdered, Rachael here, Lauren Watkins, and Tyree Jeter, who was actually the brother of Sheldon Jeter Jr. Rachael at the time was dating a guy named Rashawn Bolton, who's the half-brother of Sheldon, the guy that 2 years earlier she was found in the car with. Okay, so anyways, the night she was killed, Rachael here and Lauren Watkins and Tyree, they all went to get frozen custard at Hank's Frozen Custard. So, you know, they went there, and while they were going, Sheldon Jeter here was texting saying, hey, you know, hey, I got left, didn't I? I got left, you know, and then later he's like, you guys should be home now. Like, he was really aware of everything. And then she gets dropped off at her house. Well, they drive to Rachel's house. Lauren's driving. And Lauren asks, hey, Rachael, hey, give me a few minutes, you know. So she had to leave the car because she wanted to drive Tyree home. And then Lauren was going to come back and pick Rachael up. But literally just 4 minutes after Lauren left the house to take Tyree home, all of a sudden Rachel's shot down in the driveway of her house. I think she got shot 10 or 11 times. And it's just, there's some weird communication between Lauren and Rachael. Like, it just kept taking Lauren, it took her a while to get back. She kept saying, hey, almost there, but Rachael wasn't responding because now she's been shot. And then Kenneth Watkins right here and a guy named Frank Conkle, they're the two officers who found Rachael and Sheldon in the car 2 years earlier, but there was no charges filed. They said they were just having a conversation. Even though it was steamed up, they were in this abandoned parking lot, and they were just like, you know, who the hell knows what they were doing in there? It seems kind of obvious. And, you know, so Kenneth Watkins and Frank Conkle, they came upon him, and no charges were filed. There was no police report even created. And then later on, it turns out, and look at that, and Lauren Watkins is actually the daughter of Kenneth Watkins. So like 2 years after the incident with Sheldon, his daughter is hanging out with Rachael. Like, isn't that kind of weird, right? And then somebody came forward with information that told the police department, hey, we know that this incident took place. Why isn't there a police report? So then after the fact, they created a police report. Then Frank Katropa actually got a hold of that police report, apparently. Or it could have been somebody else, but people say Frank Katropa got it. And then that person sent it around to the media and everything that discussed the event with Sheldon. Rachael ended up getting, I think she lost her job as a teacher, and a lot of hell was going down. But what's interesting right here is Rachael Deltondo was actually, at the time of her murder, was a confidential informant for the Beaver County newspaper on corruption in county government. I mean, if this story isn't the craziest thing you've ever heard in your life, and it's not even close. I mean, we haven't even, I'm just doing this by memory. Okay, I didn't even review it or anything. So there's stuff I'll probably miss. All right, okay. So then at the time, the police chief had to step down. And then after he stepped down, I think I have another chart in here somewhere, because I had to go to a second page. There it is. Yeah, so after Don Couch right here stepped down, he was placed on suspension. He was replaced by a guy named Joseph Percival. And he goes in there, and he's basically arrested almost immediately because there was he did a wiretap of this guy to try to get some, inside information on corruption. I actually think the Percival guy isn't as bad as we originally were thinking. Although, then he was also arrested because during the investigation, he's got like 2 different charges against him. During the investigation, they found Lauren Watkins' phone and Kenneth Watkins and Stephanie Watkins were all sent a text message of a girl naked from the waist down on a swing peeing into the air. And he said he accidentally sent that out to the group chat. He meant to just send it to Kenneth Watkins and his other employees, because, you know, that's okay to do, I guess. So he got laid off. And then finally a guy named Robert Seelock. So there was 3 police chiefs in like a 2 or 3 week period. All right. Then there was a guy named Wayne Cordes right here who was arrested by Kenneth Watkins for bashing somebody's head in with a baseball bat. He said he had information on the murder. So if we go back to that other image right here, this idiotic district attorney right here, David Lozier, he listened to him and go, oh, wow. And this guy said he had a letter, half of it his attorney had, half of it was under, you know. So the district attorney broke into his cell, took some of his confidential information from his attorney, which is against the law. So then they cut a deal with him saying, hey, you can be a confidential informant and we'll cut you a deal, because they didn't want to have the legal ramifications for taking his attorney-client privileged information. So they let him out of jail just completely, oh yeah, you're out. And his attorney probably made that deal. It also turns out that the mayor of Aliquippa is actually he's related to Sheldon Jeter Jr. right here, the 17-year-old that she was with in a vehicle. So this story here actually does have the possibility of conspiracy cover-up information, especially since she was a confidential informant for the Beaver County on corruption. And then you sort of wonder, was her she knew Kenneth Watkins? Was there something she was divulging? You know, there was a theory out there that maybe Lauren knew what Rachel was doing. And what's crazy is Wayne Cordes actually picked up on that same theory, and that's what he had written in his letter. He was accusing Lauren and Kenneth of having something to do with Rachel's murder. Yeah. So I think that's pretty generic description, but it shows you how crazy it is. All right, so here's the newer article. After an elementary school teacher was gunned down in Aliquippa driveway on Mother's Day 2018, police had no trouble finding people to question. One was victim Rachael Deltondo's ex-fiancé, Frank Catropa, a successful local businessman. The couple's relationship had ended poorly. The other was Sheldon Jeter Jr., a one-time Aliquippa high school football player with whom Mrs. Deltondo had a sporadic, intimate relationship. A leaked police report documenting a late-night meeting the two had in a car while he was still a teen had led to her suspension. That's what I just told you guys. So it was a leaked police report. So it's weird. It's almost like somebody made sure that the police report was created and then made sure to leak it, because they were both done sort of, nefariously. Now, I think it's just sort of mainly ingrained in me because I covered it so many times. No, he didn't die of a drug overdose. I know if I were defending the case, Frank would be among the people that I would certainly want to subpoena, given some of the speculation surrounding the case and his former relationship with her. He did have a drug overdose, though. All right, the initial knee-jerk reaction that Sheldon... See, he was always my main suspect, Sheldon. All right, but, this is a self-serving comment here. The initial knee-jerk reaction that Sheldon was somehow involved is proven not to be true, said Mr. Jeter's lawyer. Well, okay, you're his lawyer. Michael Santacola. Mr. Jeter was charged earlier this month with fatally shooting a childhood friend. So now this guy, the same kid, has the ability to shoot and kill people. Okay, so Sheldon Jeter Jr. in June, or in May actually, of last year, we covered that on here. He killed somebody and was charged for it. Indeed, more than 2 years later, Mrs. Deltondo's case plods on, remaining unsolved, despite the publicity generated by being featured on May 2019 episode of the true crime TV show 48 Hours. All right, you guys, we've had a pretty big lull in here. We gotta make sure that the donations keep on trekking in to support the channel and the charities we're doing. All right, or do I need to put myself in prison? We used to have sort of a slower, sort of steady stream, but now it's sort of like you go an hour, gets depressing. Got to build it up. What happened? Yeah, right. I just explained that. Sheldon Jeter Jr. He's always been my main suspect because he had, if you look at these text messages here, where is it? Yeah, this one. Well, I think this one might be better. See, right here it said, "Y'all there already?" That's what, right there, Sheldon Jeter sent to his brother, Tyree, I think is his name. "Y'all there already? I got left, huh? Who all with you?" Then he says, "Hanks is closed," so that means he's checking in on Hanks and all that stuff to see, because he's tracking where they're at, right? Why does he give a shit that Hanks is closed? See, up here it said, Sheldon texted, says, I want go. Why not just drop TJ off if you're oh wait, this is a note that somebody wrote. Who all's with you? Hank is closed. Then at 10:44, at home, be back in 10 minutes. Rachael Deltondo said, she's at home. She said to be back in 10 minutes. And then the Lauren Watkins here went and dropped off TJ off at home. Then 4 minutes later at 10:48, officers were dispatched. So 4 minutes after she left. See, right here at 10:41 it says, go for a walk. That's what Lauren told Rachel. Hey, go for a walk. Rachael Deltondo replied, you serious? Like, she knew that, maybe she was going to try to be with Tyree or something. And then at 10:44, let's see, she left Rachael Deltondo's home and said, I'll be back in 10 minutes. Then 4 minutes later, officers were dispatched for shots fired at the home. 10 minutes later, Lauren left another text message saying, hey, be there soon, because she wasn't aware of it yet. Then 6 minutes after that, she said, I'm on my way. So what was taking her so long? Every time she kept saying, I'll be there soon, it took her a long time. That's why she kind of became a little bit suspicious. Then at 11:07, Lauren Watkins tried to call Rachael Deltondo. So what's taking you so long? 10:44 and now it's 11:07. It wasn't 10 minutes. You're 23 minutes later. And then 10:48 p.m. cops respond to the location. That was prior though. So they got there. And then 10:10, Kenneth Watkins, this guy right here, the sergeant, and Lauren Watkins showed up at the scene. Only 4-minute drive to Rachael Deltondo. Lauren Watkins called Rachael Deltondo at 11:07. So she already had Watts with her. Okay. Right. So they probably heard shots fired. I'm sure that, hey, thanks Shelley Wagner. Thank you. I'm sure that,
your time is appreciated, Gray.
well, thank you. Yeah, I see what they're saying. So some people think that Kenneth Watkins was aware that there was shots fired and what address it was. And then maybe Lauren made that phone call with him in the car to just check on her one last time. And when they got there, it turns out Rachael was the one that was killed. And then and that interesting thing is Kenneth broke through the barrier and sort of contaminating the crime scene. So that's a little bit weird. Alright, so now back to the... Okay, who knows how the rest of the story unfolds? This is Beaver County, after all, and this Rachael Deltondo story is going in 15 different directions, said Gerald Benyo, a veteran criminal defense lawyer. There's so many things that don't make any sense to me based on 25 years of criminal practice in Beaver County. It's just such a strange, unique, weird case. It concerns me that it appears that a homicide took place, and based upon the information released publicly, there's not much evidence at all pointing to who committed the crime. Investigators don't have a murder weapon or eyewitness. When no eyewitnesses come forward, and when there's no handgun in our possession, we have to use all sorts of other investigative and forensic tools, Beaver County District Attorney David Lozier said recently. We have phone data, we have camera data, we have other computer devices that people might have had, we have witness interviews, we have computer analysis of data that we can do or that other agencies can do with us. That allows us to bring all this information together to make sense to a judge in a preliminary hearing. But the county's top prosecutor isn't at that stage yet. No one has been named a suspect or deemed a person of interest, a vague term favored by law enforcement agencies, and Aliquippa Police Department has taken a major reputation hit with a carousel of chiefs, or carousel is what they were saying. A carousel of chiefs, that's exactly what I was telling you guys, and various internal problems that reared up in the early stages of the investigation before the chief recused the force from the Deltondo case. Miss Deltondo spent her final hours on Sunday, May 13, 2018, getting ice cream. It was frozen custard. In New Brighton with friends. Lauren Watkins, the then 17-year-old daughter of an Aliquippa police sergeant, and Tyree Jeter, see, this is exactly what I was just telling you guys a minute ago, another brother of Sheldon Jeter's. The brother texted with each other, with Sheldon asking where the group was, according to a search warrant in the case. Yeah. I wonder if anybody can find that search warrant. You guys should see if you can find it. You know, the search warrant in the Rachael Deltondo case. The brothers texted with each other, with Sheldon asking where the group was, according to a search warrant in the case. At 10:44 p.m., Miss Watkins dropped Mrs. Deltondo at the home she shared with her parents on Buchanan Street in a quiet middle-class neighborhood and left with Tyree Jeter. 4 minutes later, the 33-year-old teacher was killed, shot multiple times in the driveway. What happened in that 4-minute gap? That's the whole case, Mr. Lozier said. I don't know how the hell he's still a prosecutor there. He's ridiculous. You know, he says, that's the whole case, Mr. Lozier said. We have a pretty good idea. So he thinks he knows. But he keeps it to himself for now. Questions bound, was Miss Deltondo cooperating with the Pennsylvania State Police to investigate corruption in Aliquippa? A notion raised during the TV episode. Who was responsible for death threats her mother said her daughter had received. Did Miss Deltondo fear the police and think they were following her, as her mother claimed? Was she the target of a crime of passion or a motive more sinister? See, there's so many angles that are absolutely plausible. This one's a crazy case. Miss Deltondo's parents declined comment through their attorney, as did an aunt who spoke to 48 Hours and would now say only that she regrets it. Miss Deltondo's parents declined comment. Regrets what? Mr. Lozier declined to talk about Miss Deltondo's relationship with men or the fact she spent significant time with people half her age. I am not going to comment on the life or lifestyle of a homicide victim. Some have speculated that Miss Deltondo's death involved the police. No evidence has surfaced to bolster concerns about how law enforcement misconduct in the case, about law enforcement misconduct. Do you think anyone in the police department was involved in any way in Rachel's death? Aaron Moriarty, a 48 Hours correspondent, asked Joseph Percival III, a former assistant police chief who had a pending federal lawsuit against the city and top officials claiming they retaliated against him for blowing the whistle on misconduct. You just never know, Officer Percival said. Aliquippa is a small community with New York problems. Mr. Colafella pointed to the arrival of the Deltondo home of Mrs. Watkins' father, Kenneth Watkins, shortly after the killing. See, here we go. These are all things I mentioned in my short recap. Mr. Colafella pointed to the arrival at the Deltondo home of Miss Watkins. That would be... hold on. Yeah, Lauren Watkins. So, Lauren Watkins and Kenneth Watkins. I just showed you how he broke through the crime scene. Father Kenneth Watkins. Shortly after the killing, he has since been demoted to patrolman from sergeant and has his own federal suit pending against Aliquippa. Then Sergeant Watkins approached the crime scene but was turned away because he had no immediate reason to be there, according to Mr. Lozier. Mr. Colafell views the incident as benign but suggests that others might not. If you ask a lot of people in Beaver County, there would be some who would opine there has to be police involvement, or did they do something to throw off the trail of the investigators? Mr. Lozier did not attribute any nefarious motive to the incident. He was close to Deltondo, so, Kenneth Watkins apparently was close to Rachel. That's why Rachel was friends with his daughter, I guess. But why is she always hanging out with these little... she's 33 at the time, and Lauren's 17. Tyree Jeter was 26, and, Sheldon was 17 when she was seeing him. Mr. Lozier did not attribute any nefarious motives to the incident. He was close to Deltondo, as was his family. But asked whether he could refute the rumor mill alleging police involvement, Mr. Lozier said no. We've investigated every angle, including all of those, and I can't comment. One thing Mr. Lozier could dismiss was an allegation by a criminal named Wayne Cordes. There you go. That while in jail, he received a letter from Lauren Watkins fingering police as Mrs. Deltondo's killer and indicating that she witnessed the murder, contrary to what she told detectives. While Mr. Lozier would not discuss Miss Watkins' statement to police, he said Mr. Cordes and his cellmate made up the story. I mean, he just absolutely hoodwinked the prosecutor, and he got a sweet deal to get out of jail and not even go to trial, really, making up a lie that this Lozier guy believed. You had two guys sitting in jail who stole a piece of paper and red pen, I think from the infirmary, and together they wrote this letter and snuck it out, hoping to get a good resolution of their cases. Mr. Lozier said, the guys who wrote the letter made it up out of whole cloth. Mr. Benyo, the attorney representing Mr. Cordes, but said he could not independently verify the DA's account of the letter, though he said he had no reason to doubt Mr. Lozier. Despite the sometimes bizarre twists and turns of the case, Mr. Lozier said the investigation is in a good place. What does that mean? Or at least was before the COVID-19 pandemic. We think we know what happened that night, Mr. Lozier said recently. We want to make sure that before we file charges that we can prove beyond a reasonable doubt what happened. Okay, well, hopefully they've got something, that they're working on right here. The investigation was moving along, Mr. Lozier said, and then the pandemic interrupted. Well, why, how come? Why? Well, that's just a total excuse. I mean, you're still officers, right? You can wear your masks. Just do your investigation. Investigators from different agencies who would gather in person to discuss the case could no longer do so. Well, you could do, what everybody else is doing, right? Zoom, show your screen. Gather in person to discuss the case could no longer do so, and an online meeting wasn't a sufficient replacement, according to Mr. Lozier. Oh, God. We are doing scores of virtual meetings and video conferences and even court appearances every day in this courthouse, but some things aren't suited for that, Mr. Lozier said. You mean like something you don't want people to overhear, that kind of thing? Honestly, I thought or in an environment that can't be recorded. Now here's what I'll say. If it is an internal murder, then it makes total sense, and he's just coming up with an excuse. Because when you do Zoom calls or phone calls and things like that, you can actually record it, and then this private information, you wouldn't have any plausible deniability or anything like that. Possible, I'm just saying. We're doing scores of virtual meetings and video conferences and even court appearances every day in this courthouse, but some things aren't suited for that, Mr. Lozier said. Honestly, I thought we would have been done, Mr. Lozier said. I thought we were at a good place a couple months ago, but COVID-19 interrupted the ability of agencies to work together in the same room and in the collaborative manner that we need to. So some of this review and cooperative effort is temporarily on hold. Mr. Lozier declined to say whether Mr. Jeter fits into his investigation. He said other law enforcement agencies are assisting, but he would not identify which ones. And he would not come close to revealing whether investigators have a likely culprit. Well, I think it's pretty obvious that they have a likely culprit, right? Because you wouldn't have said, I thought we were in a good place. It sounds like they just needed to dot the I's, cross the T's, so that you could prove a murder. So it sounds to me like they definitely have somebody. I will not say that we have a suspect. I will not say that we have a person of interest, because I have a duty as the prosecutor to keep an open mind and to be able to accept the fact that while we think we know what happened, we could be wrong. And until we reach the point where we have sufficient evidence to justify filing charges, I will not name a suspect. What if I'm wrong? Then I've destroyed a person's life. In an effort to put things in perspective with Deltondo's case, Mr. Lozier points to another homicide investigation handled by his office in 2008, execution-style double murder of Richard and Dimitri Harper in the basement of their Beaver Falls home. It took 4 years to arrest 2 suspects and another 2 for them to be convicted. 12 years after the slaying, the case is still tied up in court on appeal. But this is not unheard of, Mr. Lozier said recently, of the length of time a homicide case can take, particularly a circumstantial one. This is not NCIS. It's not resolved in 1 hour or even sometimes 2 episodes. When the Deltondo case will be resolved is anyone's guess, and Mr. Lozier certainly isn't telling. He said he understands that many families are hurting. The Deltondos, the Jeters, the Catropas, and the Watkinses. The nature of the Aliquip, everybody they mentioned are people that are suspects, or have been thought of as suspects. The nature of Aliquippa and hard scrabble community of about 9,000 that has produced its fair share of famous athletes and notorious killers means there are webs of connections and closely guarded secrets. It's a very small town. Everybody knows everybody, Mr. Lozier said, so a lot of people are looking for answers. The question on everybody's mind is, when will we be able to provide them? I hope to have charges filed as soon as possible, Mr. Lozier said, but I can only do that when we're satisfied that we have a case which we can prosecute and win. So that was kind of like that more recent update. Yeah, so this is all the mapping and whatnot that we have here. Rachael and Lauren, they had gone to a Circle K first, and then they came over here. Apparently, Sheldon was seen at the Circle K, and then later had on a different clothing, or the police said, "Hey, give us the clothing you were wearing," and it was different than what they saw him on the Circle K video, and so that's where she was killed. And then there's a Hank's frozen custard. It's somewhere far out there. There it is, right there. So there's where Frank's frozen custard. They went there, and then they drove back, and let's see, where the hell is it? Yeah, so Rachel's house is right there. Kenneth Watkins, the sergeant, lives right there. This is where there was a beating, and that's the Wayne Cordes. It was right there. He was arrested by Kenneth Watkins. He's the one that came up with that fake story. But then that night, Lauren must have gone home. Why did she go home, though, after dropping off Tyree, though? See, that doesn't make any sense. You were supposed to just go pick up Rachael again. Anyways, she goes home, and she's with Kenneth, and they drive back this way to the house, and then Rachel's lying in the driveway right here, dead. And what's kind of strange, I think when you actually go down to Street View here and you look over here, I think that's her dad, this guy right here. But this Street View is from 2013. So, all right, everybody. I think that's going to be it. Thank you guys for showing up tonight. I appreciate it. Hey, thanks. Hey, are you the lady that does the videos on there? I don't know if I'm just saying Missing Persons Cases Network. I don't know if you're the one that puts out the videos for that website. You have glasses and you cover a lot of missing persons cases. Oh, you're a male? Okay. Sounds very similar. So no. Okay. All right. Well, it's hard to tell. Your name in the chat definitely isn't doesn't have a gender assigned to it. All right, everybody. Well, thank you very much for showing up. And I guess we'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. So make sure that you're maintaining your social distancing, washing your hands, and wearing your mask whenever you go to a store. You guys should go see if you can buy N95 masks on Amazon. They're not very expensive right now. And wear those every single time you go to a grocery store or something. The cloth masks don't protect you at all, really. They just protect somebody else. And so then you're relying on everybody else. Well, that sucks. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. And I guess as I always say, until next time, be safe out there. Yeah, I've been doing. I'll come back in a second. I got to thank a while now. And during this whole time, I have not seen one person that is a crime gonna get ya, or spit ya, if you try and play me like an old projector. Crime sector is my nectar. The forensic brain is gonna give another lecture. Crime collector, freak connector, and I'm always gonna be a pup protector. Full deflector, interceptor, and I'm meaner than a spectre with a vector on his pector.
I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. There's no lying to the face police soldier.
I have no agenda. I'm no pretender, and I'll serve it to you straight without the blender. And in the end, I'm gonna send ya on a mission to reveal the true offender. Yeah, so I'll just get right back to work. All right, everybody? Talk to you later.
Thank you, Jessica Schubach, Claudia Neubauer, Carolina T, Gene Fish, Susanna Macbilla Padre, Nona 617, Melissa Crone Carville, Gene Fish, and Shelley Wagner. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Yeah, all right. Well, thanks everybody. And I guess we'll see you guys later. I'll play the, you guys can chat for a while if you'd like. Thought those are pretty interesting cases, though. Just got to get the music for you guys.
Chew it up and spit it out and repeat it. It's not a treat, the troll is beat. Just one of the ways that I defeat it. Staying in my groove when there's a troll on the move. Just takes a second to remove, cause every time I conclude, the troll is gonna lose. Nice try, lizard eye, I see you creeping on the slide. Why you think you so fly when you're just a whiny cry? Battle me, you're the fry. Gonna send you off to mummify. When I'm in the mood, I sprinkle troll on my food, but I don't eat it. I chew it up and spit it out and repeat it. It's not a treat, the troll is beat. Just one of the ways that I defeat it. Staying in my groove when there's a troll on the move. Just takes a second to remove, cause every time I conclude, the troll is gonna lose. Nice try, lizard eye, I see you creeping on the slide. Why you think you so fly when you're just a whiny cry? Battle me, you're gonna fry. Gonna send you out to mummify. Time to say goodbye. Hickory dickory dock. This duck was looking at a clock.
Wow, you really crack yourself up there, Mary Lou.
I sure do.
Well, it's good to see you smile.
Okay, thanks. Scooby, alright, I'll let Gray know. He's already gone to sleep.
I went to bed too.
Yeah, but I don't care if you go to bed or not.
Gosh, you're so mean.
Look at how the trolls show up at the end of the show, like that Tyrone the idiot. Tyrone Bigum's the idiot. Shows up at a show at the end of the show and tries to be cool, but nobody knows. He's a loser who shows up at the end of the show, doesn't have the guts to say anything to anybody else. Gray's not hiding anything, he's just wearing a visor. Yeah, I've actually showed my hair on the show, you idiot Tyrone. Tyrone the loser. He's a really big loser. He's a snoozer as well. Tyrone the loser, the snoozer. He's got a big booger. Yeah, he's an idiot. Oh, poor Tyrone. Okay. Goodbye, Tyrone. the name he called himself was, he was trying to be racist. Thanks, everybody. Good night, John boy.
Wait, you talking to me now?
Yeah, I thought I'd throw you a bone. You get it?
Wow. Good night, Mary Lou.
Gee, good night, Brown boy. Wow, you sound so sad. Wow. Did you guys miss the music there?
I think you lost the music for a second. But anyways, thanks everybody. See you tomorrow.